When Technos released Double Dragon in 1987, gamers went wild for its two-player beat-em-up action, but not me. I just didn't see the appeal. But if one good thing came from Double Dragon, it was the fact that game developers were all fighting over themselves to release their own better alternatives. SNK came up with this offering called p.o.w.e.r, or Prisoners of War. As a single player or as a two-player, the mission objective is to escape from the enemy's base by fighting through 4 stages filled with numerous types of enemy soldiers trying to impede the player's escape. The stage consists of a POW camp, a warehouse, a jungle, and the enemy's base. Occasionally, the enemy will attack the player with vehicles such as an assault chopper, an armoured truck, or motorcycles. At the end of the final stage, the player confronts an enemy general before being picked up by the extraction chopper, proceeding to the final escape sequence. The controls consist of an 8-way joystick for moving the character and 3 action buttons for punching, kicking and jumping. The player can also pick up one of 2 weapons dropped by defeated enemies, a throwing knife or a machine gun. The controls change while wielding a weapon. The knife is thrown by pressing the punch button, but can be preserved by the player until needed by using kicks. When wielding the machine gun, the player can fire it by pressing the kick button or conserve its ammo by pressing the punch button to gun whip enemies. This was a game that I did enjoy as a kid. When I was a young boy in the 80s, I always enjoyed going swimming. My dad would take me and my sister every Monday to this swimming club near where we grew up. The pool was basic, it was just a pool. But when I started high school, I started to go swimming with my mates every Saturday. Our preferred choice was the Lagoon Leisure Centre in Paisley, or, if money was tight, we would go to the Victory Baths in Renfrew. In there, it was very old fashioned, but at least the pool had diving deals, which were always fun doing cannonballs off, especially the top one. Anyway, just in a small room off the entrance, they had this single arcade cabinet, and it was running p.o.w.e.r. Now, I have to say this game really stands out in my mind for a few reasons. The first one being the location. As this was in a small room at Victory Baths, it was quiet, and so I got to hear the game in its full glory, and I really liked that. In the lagoon, for example, there were fruit machines and the like, and the sound from them was always deafening. The second reason this game stood out was I thought it was so much better than Double Dragon, and this was only 20p a go at this location. So every time I would go swimming there, I would make sure I would have a few goes on this. And I have to say, I loved this game as a kid. The visuals now are very poor. In fact, back then they were not great, but they done their job well. And compared to the Commodore 64 and other home formats, there was certainly more vibrancy and colour on show. The animation was smooth while not being entirely brilliant, but the animation on the enemy soldiers when they take a beating is good, and the enemy vehicles like the helicopter and the tanks look pretty decent. Some of the backgrounds look a little bland, with some drab colours throughout, but the skyline and clouds are fairly decent and break up the use of the solid colour skies, which were a common sight in games of this era. The sound effects are pretty decent too. with this whoosh when kicking and punching, and the sound of the crunch as you make contact is brilliant, and with decent explosion sound effects throughout. It wasn't an assault on the senses, thank God. But my favourite sound effect has to be the machine gun. The sound when you strike someone with it is brutal sounding, but it's this tinny, echoey sound of the gunshots that I love the most. I loved that sound back then, and I still love it now. In fact, when doing this video, I added a cheat in MAME to play the whole game with the machine gun, just so I could hear it more often. The music is not the best, but then, in those days, not many games really had decent tunes, and so I won't be too critical on that front, but it could have been a little better, in my opinion. The gameplay is good. It certainly is not as enjoyable as I remember all those years ago, but it's not bad still. It's still way better than Double Dragon, in my opinion, and it is still a tough game to beat. I never did get far with my 20p all those years ago, and today I lost count of the credits I had to use to beat it. It seems the favoured way to beat the game is to jump and kick all the time, which is not how I enjoy playing my beat 'em ups, but then it's each to their own. The game takes only about 30 minutes or so to beat, and had I beat it back in the day, I would have felt well chuffed, especially as it only cost 20p a go. But I could only ever afford about 3 credits on it, and I don't think I ever got past the second level. I had always hoped this game would come out on a Commodore 64, or even later when I got my Sega Master System. But I think it only ever got ported to the NES, which I didn't have, nor did I have any intention of ever owning. But I have to say, on the NES it looked alright, but I would have just loved to have seen it in the Master System. But you can't have everything, I suppose. p.o.w.e.r was a fun game back in the day, but today it hasn't aged well at all. I still enjoyed playing it recently for this video, but it's not a game I honestly have a hankering to go back and play again, really. But if you haven't played it and have the ability to do so, then please do give it a go. And that was my look back at p.o.w.e.r in the arcade. If you like this video, then please do give me a sub and a thumbs up, or maybe even a comment or two below about your memories of p.o.w.e.r on the arcade, or even the NES, which wasn't covered in this video. And a big thank you to all of those who have subscribed to my channel. It really does mean a lot. And that's all from me, folks. Thanks for watching.